Welcome to the Electric Scooter Podcast, episode number 10. I almost wish I was not the host this time because I would love to be a listener. You are in the right place today. In fact, you may not even listen to any of my other podcasts after this one because I won't be able to top it. Well, except for the next episode, episode 11. That is gonna be epic. But today we have Paul from the Electric Scooter Guide.
We got Paul. We got Paul, y'all. We got Paul from ESG. We got Paul. We got Paul, y'all. We got Paul from ESG. ESG.
He's a motorcycle racer, mechanic, musician, physicist, statistician, get this, X-ray astronomist, statistician. He's worked with lasers, plasma, physics, acoustics, optics. I mean, who does all this? I'm pretty sure he's an alien from outer space. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Somerville. Paul from the Electric Scooter Guide. I got to tell you, I am humbled and honored that you showed up and agreed to be on this episode, even though the universe didn't want you here. I mean, I had surgery, you had surgery, but you're here, and I, not just as a podcaster, but as an individual, I am so interested in your background and everything you have to say. When you're on the ESG channel, I lean forward a little bit in my seat every time the camera turns to you, every time they're about to ask you a question. So could we start out, please? Just tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do now, how you ended up with the Electric Scooter Guide.
Yeah, well, thanks. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here. It's so fun. I never get tired of talking about scooters. It was a long and strange path for me to join Electric Scooter Guide. One of the things I was just thinking about last night after the show, I was like so amped up after the show. We had so much fun last night. Was one of the things I was thinking is like, I wonder if the people watching realize that we don't have day jobs. Like, this is what we do. It's like we live, eat, and breathe scooters like all day,
because
every day.
You do so much. You're so prolific. Yeah. You put out so much material.
Yeah, it's a lot, and then just all the research that goes into it, and just the pressure of when, especially not as much on the website because we can edit that later if we screw something up. But when you commit something to YouTube, it's kind of forever. I mean, you can delete the whole show if you want to, but you get one number wrong, and you're just going to live with it. And so.
And you do live streams.
Yeah, and that's always exciting. And it's, really, oh my gosh, this whole thing with scooters just appeals to me on so many different levels. We were chatting before we got started here about, my background in music and things, and it's just, the live show is just so much like back when I was performing as a musician in a ska band. It has that same sort of excitement, and that same, anything can happen sort of feel to it. And so it's just, there's a lot to love about being at ESG.
I got to tell you, I love ska too. Bad Manners specials.
I played with them.
You played with Bad Manners?
Well, I mean, I've opened for them up in Tahoe.
Return of the Ugly. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ska.
Super nice guys. I've opened it. It's opened for an amazing number of existing, like pretty much everybody that existed, including sort of bands that aren't really ska, like Fishbone and
I love Fishbone.
People like that.
DC.
I opened for No Doubt back when they were a ska band. This is before the album before Tragic Magic Kingdom came out. This is like 91. I would never.
Their bass player is killer.
Yeah,
especially back then. I don't know what he's doing now.
He's a little nutty now. He's in a band called Dream Car now. And,
I should check him out.
And I followed him for a little while, but he's cool. He's a really nice guy. He actually wrote me back then. I wrote them a letter. I'd never before or since written a letter to a band, and I wrote them a letter saying they were amazing. You guys are way better than anything on MTV.
I give a lot of credit to that bass player, man. That guy was just killing it.
Amazing.
His tone, his lines, everything. So did you wear the checkered clothes and skank on stage and all that?
Not, I did a lot of actually. I got really inspired by Skink and Pickle. I don't know if you know of them.
I've heard of them.
Mike Park, Bay Area guy, runs a record label. And he was the trombone player, and that guy, just the whole band was just bouncing off the stage the whole time, and got really inspired by those guys to do a lot of like running and jumping. And I played saxophone, and I was a lead singer. And so I had this harness on my saxophone, so I could like do like a 2 or 3 foot jump while playing and land and keep playing.
Is there anything you don't do? I mean, motorcycles, scooters, physics. You do the graphs and everything. Don't you also compile the data? Oh my god!
We got a little Easter egg on the live show. Is one of my actual college textbooks is in the set behind us. The Fundamentals of Physics by Holiday and Resnick. It's the one book I kept from school, but I've got a weird background, and it's like amazing how well it fits for everything that we do here. It's so fun.
Well, you've been to school a lot longer than me, obviously, and have read a lot of books.
I don't know about that. It's more real world. It's applied physics, so I was always more interested in applying it than reading about it. But it's been a long ride. I've done crazy stuff. My first gig was like writing code for X-ray astronomy funded by NASA.
X-ray astronomy.
Yeah,
that sounds like a ska band right there.
It does, and then I did some acoustics after that, and then optics, and then plasma physics, and then atomic force microscopy, and then lasers. And then, what came after lasers? After lasers, I started my own motorcycle shop and cafe, Moto Java in San Francisco. It's still there. It's a buddy of mine, Moto Mike, runs it now. And
what style of motors did you do? Cafe racers? Or
no, it was actually, we were racing ourselves at the time. We raced for 5.5 years, motorcycles, and
was that AMA type, or was it just for fun?
No, it was AFM, which is American Federation of Motorcyclists. I think it's the oldest motorcycle racing organization for sure in the U.S., possibly the world, and it's just been continuously operating for just decades and decades. And they sound like they're nationwide, but they're actually it's a Bay Area organization, but it was a very fast organization. A lot of our guys would go on to go do, national stuff. And some of them would simultaneously race with us and race, the national series like the AMA. But yeah, we did that for 5.5 years. And then my racing teammate and I started Moto Java together. And we thought that we would be, being racers, was like, we'll get into sport bikes and prepping race bikes and all this. And we realized after a little while, it's like, we're in San Francisco, and the market was all about transportation, and we got really into that. That was, the freedom that you would have on two wheels in a city, and then that's kind of what led into my interest in scooters. Was here's something that's a little it's more accessible, it's less expensive, it's even cleaner. I mean, motorcycles are pretty clean. They burn less than half the gasoline of most cars, especially in a city. And here scooters are all that and then some, because you've got the portability aspect. You can bring it in your house. Anybody can own one. At the moment, anybody can ride one. And so,
I'm giving you credit. Let me ask you if you deserve the credit. I think you do. I mentioned it even on my last podcast. My favorite scooter statistic. Did you come up with this, where you take a Corolla and a Tesla and a scooter starting from the Bay Area? How far can you get? I think the Corolla.
No. That's not me. That's not me, but it is one of my favorites.
$20 worth of fuel. The Corolla can make it to Reno, I think, and the Tesla will make it all the way to Salt Lake City. And a scooter on $20 of fuel will make it to Dubai.
Wow. Yeah. And that, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, you look at a bus. I mean, everybody thinks of buses as being, very green, and I'm not anti-bus, at all. But just look at the physics of it. Even a fully loaded bus with as many people as you can get on there, the ratio of cargo or ratio people weight to vehicle weight is not that great. On your typical scooter, especially stuff you'd ride in the cities, 30, 35 pounds, and then it's carrying a rider that's 4 or 5 times its own weight. And just that ratio, working for you there, you're just not moving a lot of extra stuff around. So it's just going to be more efficient.
I gave my wife that statistic, and you know what she said?
What?
Well, how does it get across the water? How does this get across
She's
the
got
water?
a point.
Get on board. Train's about to leave the station. The Electric Scooter Podcast. Woo! Everybody now, get with me. It's coming at you. A new episode. The Electric. It's electric. It's electric. It's electric.
You know you want it.
Listen, put it in your ear.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about, I just want to go so deeply, though, even into the motorcycle, because I love motorcycles. And I don't know how much time you have. I could keep you here literally all day.
Yeah, I've got some time. Yeah.
Okay, could you tell me about the weather you typically ride in there and the type of, do you balk because I ride motorcycles and I'm from Hawaii, and I would ride 365 days a year. So when it was pouring rain, I'd put on a full wetsuit, or a dry suit, whatever they call it, and I'd get to work, and you have to park, and then you have to walk to get to the building where I worked.
Yeah.
The people in cars would wear a jacket that goes down to their knees, and they would get there and they're wet. All the bottom part of their pants and their shoes and everything are wet. And I would get there completely dry because I keep my dry suit on get off the motorcycle, walk inside the building, and then remove my dry suit. And people are like, how are you completely dry in this torrential downpour? And I would just say, I rode my motorcycle in. That's how I'm dry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm a 365 day a year rider. Actually, I'm extremely frustrated right now because I'm commuting by car while my arm heals up a little bit. And I was actually really tempted to start riding this week, but I just decided I'm gonna wait another week before I start get back on the motorcycle. But when my arm isn't broken, it's 365. It's in rain, shine, cold.
Scooter or motorcycle?
Because I crossed the Bay Bridge to get here. There's just physically not other than BART, there's not a way to do that on a scooter. So I do ride my motorcycle in every day, and which has some pretty big parking advantages here as well, because we are not blessed with good parking at ESG.
What kind of motorcycle are you riding these days?
It's a Triumph Street Triple R.
Oh, sweet.
It's a 2013. I absolutely love it. I've owned, because of the motorcycle shop, I've owned a couple thousand motorcycles and refurbished a couple thousand motorcycles because we refurbished everything we sold. And then I would do the final inspection ride on all of those. And this is still, my favorite motorcycle that I've ridden.
Triple is a sweet spot in between a V-twin and an inline-4.
That's exactly why I love it. It's just like, it's got the zoom on top, but it's got the grunts on the bottom. Yeah. And I love it. Absolutely love it. But scooter-wise, we will ride. I'll ride in any weather. I've got my full motorcycle gear, and it's exactly the same gear that I wear for commuting, that I wear when I'm riding the scooters. And fortunately, even when I broke my arm, I was wearing that full gear, and it saved my elbow. But yeah, I wear an Aerostitch suit. I've got the R3, which is the latest generation of the Roadcrafter, which is it's supposed to be finally actually waterproof, which is amazing so far. It's worked out that way.
Is that a one piece that you step into?
It is. Yeah, I used to feel like James Bond. You're talking about getting to work and being dry. I would show up in Silicon Valley at the laser company I worked for, and you grab one little zipper on your right leg that goes up to just goes up the length of your leg, and then zipper on the left leg. You grab that one that goes from your left ankle up to your neck, and then the whole suit falls off. And sometimes I would be wearing like a full business suit underneath.
Yeah.
And you just feel like so James Bond. You like walk into the office, looking like you just got done flying a fighter jet, and then you walk back out in a suit like less than 30 seconds later.
Yeah. I feel it used to be, people used to think that protective gear was dorky, like when I was growing up, but I think it's completely changed. I think you see people with a full face, even on a scooter, full face helmet, and like the guy from Alien Rides, and the cool backpack, and knee pads, or I wear motorcycle pants, and I wear Alpine Stars leather jacket that I've had forever, but it's motorcycle gear on the scooter, and I think times have changed. And,
thank goodness.
I think people think it's actually cool when you look kind of like you're a member of Daft Punk or an alien or something.
And I wonder, I kind of wonder where it came from. I think I know where sort of the anti-gear sentiment came from. That was a lot of the sort of
biker crowd.
Yes, thank you. There's a better term that I was going to use. Is the biker crowd exactly? They're very anti-helmet, very anti-gear, and it's like it doesn't help the industry, doesn't help the sport or whatever, the activity, if you want, the reputation, when people are getting hurt, and so the more people can gear up, the less people are going to have stories about their uncle who has a brain injury, or whatever, and the less people are going to get turned off by this really, really good mode of transportation, and that I'm including motorcycling and scooter riding here.
I don't mean to portray bikers in a negative light, and I know you don't either. I've ridden Harleys, and I still have a Harley my whole life, and I've ridden with other people and all that kind of thing, but I just never was comfortable without a helmet, and I compare it kind of like it to a guitar. Like, we just pine over our guitars. We are just so into them, how they look, and the shape and the color is such a big deal. And you know what? The only person who cares is you. Nobody in the audience, is looking at your guitar and going, "What a cool guitar." It's the same thing with a motorcycle helmet. You think, "Oh, I'm cool. I'm not wearing a helmet." You're uncomfortable. June bugs are snapping your forehead back, and it could be random pieces of glass kicked up on the road, or I've been hit by pieces, the little pebbles kicked up by 18-wheelers, but nobody is looking at you going, "That guy doesn't have a helmet. He's cool."
Right.
It literally is. It's only you that thinks that.
Yeah. And my best argument, when we had our motorcycle shop, we would only sell full face helmets, and when folks would come in, I want to buy something that, is less protective. We're like, we tell them where they can go if they really want to do that. But I would always, tell them, hey, the front part of my head is my favorite part of my head.
It's like they used to say with helmets, if you got a $40 head, buy a $40 helmet. If that's how much your head value is a value to you.
I actually ruined a $1,000 helmet when I did this crash recently. With the one where I broke my arm. I didn't pay that for it because I got a really good deal on it. I think I paid about $500 on it, $500 for it. But it was an Arai Corsair X. Retails like $979, something like that. So,
I remember it used to be a great. What I used to do is at the end of the motorcycle season, all the custom ones that specific riders would have, painted for their helmets. Those would go on sale for $1,000 helmets would go for like $500. Now, I'm a showy guy because of the shape of my head.
Yep.
But, So let me ask you a couple questions now.
It's time to ask you some questions. Say what's on your mind. Now it's time to ask you some questions, but you won't have much time.
Answer me! Answer me now! Answer me! I've got questions! You give answers! So answer me now, right now!
My last interview was with a guy named Scott, the Neutron Man, down in San Diego, and he's an adventurer. He hang glides, skydives, motorcycles, scuba dives, all that kind of stuff, travels, hiking, backpacking, and all that. And he came to Las Vegas for 3 days, and we scootered for those 3 days. So he kind of got bit with the bug a little bit. And I didn't recommend this to him during the episode, but I talked to him later. And I kind of thought, he lives in downtown San Diego and kind of the Bohemian district. So it's it's fairly populated. A lot of curbs and that kind of thing, a lot of small bars and tattoo parlors and stuff. I thought maybe the Inokim OXO would be good for him. Do you agree with that, or do you have something you were... Now, a guy who's got balance, he surfs, skates, all that kind of stuff, rides motorcycles. So, but he doesn't want to buy, a $300 GoTrax off of Amazon and then... glance at it in his garage every time he walks by it, because 3 weeks later he goes out and buys a Wolf King.
Right. Yeah, and the OXO is a great scooter. It really has probably still my very favorite suspension. I love the Wolf and the Wolf King, but that rubber suspension is just really good. It still has the best brakes of anything we've ever tested, and the Wolf King actually has bigger brakes, but the OXO's got less weight, and I think slightly better suspension, and that combination just lets it stop. I think it was like 8.8 feet or something for 15 miles an hour, which is just amazing. And yeah, it's a really good scooter. The one quirk that some people don't mind, Chuck doesn't seem to bother him at all.
Thumb throttle.
Yes, it's not just the thumb throttle, but the way that it behaves is it does a little thinking for you. It's trying to be extra smooth and not give you that arm yanking like surprise throttle. And so when you first hit it, it kind of you could just hit the whole thing and it just ramps up for you. So you just you give it full throttle and it kind of takes off, and over the course of about 5 seconds it ramps up from like 20%
smart,
throttle.
because I was wondering, if you go off of a curb, do you have to pull your thumb all the way to the right to get it away from that thumb throttle? Because when you land, is your thumb naturally going to hit it and bolt forward? Maybe that's why they programmed the torque ratio that way.
It could be. And then the one thing they had to do then, though, is once it's ramped up, if you let off the thumb and then go right back on, they had to decide, hey, do we start the ramp up all over again, or do we pick up where we left off? And they did, probably the only thing they could do, which is it feels like they put a little timer in there, basically. So if you get off and right back on, it comes back on really strong. And so you have to kind of be ready for that, because it's not, it comes back on right where you left it.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah, but if if you're in the middle of a corner and you're just making a quick adjustment or something, then you kind of sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. And but then if you roll off for 3 seconds, it'll come back on at 40% throttle. If you roll off for 5 seconds and roll back on, it comes on at 20% throttle. And so it's trying to kind of do the right thing and come back in gently, but also not leave you flat if you just roll off for a second and then back on. You don't want to have to make you wait for the power forever. So it's an interesting thing. The other thing that's a little goofy about it is that when the ramp up where the power, like if you're just trying to directly modulate, once you've reached full power, if you're just trying to directly modulate the power yourself, everything is happening. Like say there's a 90-degree swing. I can't remember how many degrees are actually in the thumb throttle. It feels like about 5-10 degrees is where actually all the throttling happens. And so it's hard to sustain an exact throttle there. But some people don't ride that way. Some people are just on and off and on and off and on and off to sustain speed.
Yeah. I've seen Ginger on wheels, because I have a Wolf Warrior, and he makes a lot of videos about the Wolf Warrior. And I wonder what he's doing, flicking that switch like from 0 to max all the time. I don't really understand that. Maybe I haven't been scootering as long as he has. So is there some reason for that?
Yeah, when you're on a really powerful scooter, sometimes that is the easy way to do it. That way you're not trying to modulate the throttle at all. You just kind of blast and coast and blast and coast. And the funny thing is, I was just talking with Alex at Zero to Epic about getting range out of things, and people that are doing the hypermilers, the people that are trying to get a ton of miles per gallon out of a gasoline vehicle, will do something like that, where they you have a car that can make 100 horsepower. It's actually way more efficient at 75 horsepower than it is at 25 horsepower because you're not, you're just letting the air flow through it and do its thing. And so the hypermiler guys will spend 15 seconds at 75 horsepower, and then they'll spend or no, actually, 5 seconds at 75 horsepower, and then maybe 15 seconds at just coasting, and then hit it again. And versus just staying at 25 horsepower all day long, it actually is more efficient for gas vehicles. And I don't know with the electric vehicles if they care or not. Like you're ultimately, are they more efficient at full throttle than they are holding part throttle all day long? And I think that's one of the things that we'll find out from his ride across country here.
I'm going to follow that, and that's an interesting concept. I wonder what a great opportunity, because he's doing that. There's a lot of long range issues that you can figure out. So you're pretty involved with that, right? At ESG, you're supporting him. I know that. And
we're following along and checking in, and Chuck has been more involved than I have. I've just bounced a few messages so far. I've just bounced a few messages off back and forth about strategy, about range, and things like that.
And what scooter is he riding?
It's the ones I know about. I know he's got 3 Wolf Warriors, and I think there might be another scooter or two. That sure seems like the right choice to me.
And your favorite scooter, I know the answer to this because I heard you last night. Now, let me ask you. I'll let you. Okay, you go ahead and announce it. Maybe I'll put some kind of fanfare horns or something in here. But
okay.
Paul's favorite all-around scooter is
the Cabo Wolf King. Is my absolute favorite scooter these days, replacing the Dualtron, the Mini Motors Dualtron Eagle Pro, which I absolutely loved for the suspension and the power and all that. But the Wolf King is it's amazing, and it's the thing that it does better than the Eagle Pro, aside from not having a super squeaky stem, which I know I could,
and not fully hydraulic brakes either.
Yeah, that's shocking. Apparently you can upgrade them, but it's really kind of surprising that a scooter that good has as good as the Eagle Pro has the mechanical disc brakes. But the Wolf King it's just such a complete package. It's so solid, and I love the big wide tires, and it's so stable. I was really surprised how the first time I took it out for a speed run, I was a little nervous. It was literally 8 days after I had my arm screwed back together. After 8 days after they put a plate in my arm, I snuck it out. I literally waited for everybody to leave so they wouldn't try to talk me out of it. And but I really wanted this data for we had the review coming up, and we kind of knew it was going to be the fastest scooter ever, and I snuck it out there and figured, let's give it a try and see if it's really scaring me, I'll stop. And it was so easy. I mean, it was so, now the more that I tuck, the lower I get, the more difficult it gets. And I don't even think I was tucked fully as far on the fastest run.
The camera, were you wearing a chest camera? Because it was showing your knees.
Yeah, I really wanted to, I wish I would have been more clear about it on the show last night. I mentioned the 360, which is basically, it's an Insta 360 was the other camera that I didn't wear yesterday.
Oh yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah, and it's a great camera,
it is.
But so I was wearing the GoPro 9 on my chest just today, and I had the idea that would probably end up peeking through. I didn't do a test run at all. That was just luck that it ended up being where it was. But I had the idea that it would be peeking through the 4 tubes there, and but I really I wanted to run the Insta 360, but we usually run that sticking out to the side so we can kind of see the scooter. And because I was trying to pick up 0.6 miles per hour I didn't want any additional wind resistance.
Right.
Yeah, or just anything, just
You could have run
anything
it
else
straight
going on.
behind you.
I have run it straight out in front of me before.
I do that also.
I thought about doing that too, but I also just didn't. I knew I was going to be like tucking really hard, and I just didn't want it bumping the forks, or just didn't want any interference at all, because I was pretty nervous about doing that run yesterday. So
I placed the Insta360 off to the side for my motorcycles. I have an SV1000, and
is it with a fairing or the naked one?
It was a naked bike originally, but I put a full fairing on it.
Oh, okay. But did you keep the upright bars?
No.
Oh, okay. That's actually the naked ones are pretty rare. You almost never see those.
Yeah. I put I did put risers on. I have clip-ons, but I added risers.
Yeah, great bike.
So you get the advantage of the clip-ons, but you get the comfort of having risers. So for me, it's perfect.
Nice.
So I run the Insta360 to the side on the motorcycle, but on the scooters, I put it to the front, and then I put a little GoPro off that little bar behind you, so you get a view of the dirt kicking up, because I do a lot of off-road stuff. So the Wolf King, I tell you, the Wolf King, they had me at gold. They could have done nothing, 0 upgrades, and just had it available in gold, and that thing is pimping. When you go by on one of those, people are going to turn their heads. They're probably not going to know what you're riding and why is he standing up or whatever. But that gold, I just love that look.
Yeah, it's a really good looking scooter. The Zoom master cylinders have little red caps at the end of it, and I thought that was a tiny miss there. That they could have either gone black or silver or gold there, and it would have been great. But red is just like the only, other than the taillight, and I guess it's the little tongue shaped rubber thing on the deck. But other than that,
you could probably replace those with something, I would think.
Yeah, that's true. Or even wire, take them off, wire wheel and put it back on or something. Make it
so when you say that's your favorite all-arounder, how about for somebody like Scott, the Neutron Man in San Diego? Is it good for weaving in and out of, going up and down curbs and in and out of a populated place with a lot of people walking down the street, holding hands, drinking beer, and that kind of thing? Yeah,
I'd say for lane splitting and anything, if you wanted to use it like a little motorcycle, it's amazing and awesome, and there's nothing like it. It's like it is something like I'm a little nervous at having it around people, especially in zero start mode. It's just, you can forget that it's on, and you go to move it, and you like bump the throttle, or you think that you're going to like give yourself a little assist by nudging the throttle while you're pushing it or something, and you could just launch it, and it has so much. It's a little hard to get used to if you're used to motorcycles, especially 4-cylinder motorcycles. You grab the power, you grab a big fistful, and nothing happens. You wait for it, and it comes on. And scooters are just the opposite of that, and it can really catch you unaware if you're used to combustion engines. The scooter's going to give you everything right now, and that goes for when you're launching it, when you're if you're riding one-handed, like I will never ever do again,
right?
Or if you're just moving it.
I learned a lesson from you. Thank you for that. Thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah, it's just I've given up now. I mean, it was something for a while I was convinced that it's like, oh, this is one of the ways I can learn about this is the stability of a scooter is riding it one-handed and kind of because a motorcycle, I mean, you can just literally ride
one motorcycle all day long.
All day long. I mean, when I raced, it was I raced little tiny motorcycles with 250cc 28 horsepower stock. Mine made like 36, 37 horsepower. But low horsepower motorcycles, low enough to where if I was going down a straightaway, I would tuck my left arm behind my back like the ice skaters do in the Olympics. And you would get I really would get an advantage out of that. And so once I figured that out, whenever it was a close race or I really needed it, I would pretty much always have that arm, 100 miles an hour, that arm behind me. And so I just got so used to being comfortable riding one-handed that I just really had to convince myself now that you just don't do it on a scooter because the abruptness, and especially with a trigger throttle, things start moving. There will be, if you grab throttle with one hand, you will get this unintentional turn of the handlebars. You will get an unintentional yank of more throttle. So lots of bad things happen when you ride a scooter with one hand. And I'm just, I think on any size scooter now, I just hard and fast rule, just not going to do it at all.
Not going to do it. Sounds like good advice. Keep both hands on your handlebar. Do not ride your scooter with one hand. Take it from the man, Paul Somerville. That is a multi-talented guy. He makes me proud and kind of hard to believe that I'm even a member of the same race, the human race, as Paul. What an unbelievable guy. And when I said episode 11 is going to be epic, that's because episode 11 is going to be more Paul. We're going to talk about kickstarting scooters. Why would you want to do that? Is it good? Is it bad? Some people like it. Some people don't. You know, some scooters, you might have to go into the P settings, or there's different ways. Some of them are standard. You have to kick and get moving first before you hit the throttle and get some juice. How about single versus dual motors? When do you use which one? If you happen to have a scooter with dual motors, or if you're debating between a single or dual motor scooter. Throttles. We're going to get into throttles. Some of the cheapos and the higher quality ones, is there that much difference? Tires. We're going to get into tires. You're going to be able to make a much better informed decision after you hear Paul give his advice on tires. And slime. I learned some things about slime that I didn't know. Also, we're going to talk about exotic scooters, and maybe we'll have a session of fire, rapid fire. So stay tuned next Wednesday, episode 11 of the Electric Scooter Podcast. Until then, keep the shiny side up and the dirty side down.